This is the review video for the 4.6 to 4.8 quiz. The best thing is to go through each question with me, jot down some notes if you need to, or even have the review up as you're working on the quiz so you know what type of problem you're looking at. So the first one is a multiplying of radicals. So the first thing you want to do is you want to multiply the numbers in front first. So we want to multiply the 5 and the 5 together to get 25. And then you want to multiply what's under the radical, so the 5 and the 15, which is 75. And then you want to break down 75 into a perfect square factors. So the perfect square that goes into 75 is 25 times 3. Square root of 25 is 5, so you get 5 root 3. But then you also have this 25 out front, so you're going to multiply the 25 and the 5 together to get 125 root 3. And you're going to go to your answer and type that in. So 125, square root button, 3, submit. All right, next one is dividing. We're going to do a simple dividing. We'll also do a more complicated dividing in a second. So a simple dividing is one that divides evenly. So you'll notice that 40 divided by 2 divides evenly. So 40 divided by 2 is 20. So you're just going to divide these two numbers. And then you're going to break 20 down into its perfect square factor, which is 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2, and you still have the square root of 5. So you're going to type in 2 root 5 into your answer. So 2 root 5, submit. All right, next problem is the little harder division. So with this division, first of all, I cannot simplify because the 6 is not under a radical and the 10 is. So what I have to do is I have to rationalize the denominator. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by the radical that's in the bottom. So I'm going to multiply the top by the square root of 10 and the bottom by the square root of 10. So I get 6 square root of 10 over 10. I can reduce, however, the 6 and the 10. Because both of those are outside of radicals, that reduces to 3/5. So you get 3 root 10 divided by 5. And that's exactly how you're going to type in your answer. 3 root 10 divided by 5. 3 root 10 divided by 5. Okay. Next question. Solving quadratics with square roots. So with this type of question, you want to isolate the square root, or the squared. So you're going to subtract 11. Subtract 11. So you get negative x squared equals negative 4. Divide by a negative 1 to get the x squared by itself. So you get x squared equals 4. Take the square root of both sides. This one actually works out very nicely. You get plus or minus 2. And they actually have that button for you, the plus or minus, which is nice. So you're going to type in plus or minus 2. Submit your answer. All right, next question. Solving quadratics with square roots. This one's a little more involved. It just has more steps to kind of work through. So first thing we want to do is we want to get the x minus 7 squared to be by itself. So we're going to add 37. So you have negative 35 plus 37 is 2. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2. So we have x minus 7 squared equals 1. We're ready to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 1 is 1. So you get plus or minus 1. You don't have to break that down. It is a perfect square. We're going to add 7 to both sides. We actually get two different answers. We don't have to include the plus or minus. We can list the answers separately. One of your answers is going to be positive 1 plus 7, which is 8. And one of the answers is going to be negative 1 plus 7, which is 6. So when you type in your answer, you can type it in just in separate spots since you don't have to do the plus or minus, 8 and 6. So we're going to hit 8, hit the little plus sign, and 6. Submit your answer. There you go. Moving on. Solving with square roots continued. This is going to start working with some imaginary pieces. So we are subtracting 3. Subtracting 3. So we get 2x squared equals negative 64. Divide both sides by 2. X squared equals negative 32. When I take the square root of both sides, I am square rooting a negative, so I'm going to need an I. I also need to see if I can break down 32. It's not a perfect square, but 16 is, and that's a factor of 32. So I'm going to have the square root of 16, which is 4. I'm going to include an I because of the negative under the radical, and I'm still going to have a square root of 2. So I'm going to type all of that in, plus or minus 4I, and then the root 2. So plus or minus 4I, and you're just going to hit the I on your keyboard, root 2. Submit your answer. All right, next question, simplifying radicals that are negative. So simplifying radicals that are negative, just like simplifying them that are positive, you're going to have to break it down into perfect square factors. So let's see, 250, 25, or bigger than that, 25 times 10. No, the 25 would be the biggest. I was thinking there would be something bigger. 25 times 10. You do have an I because of the negative. You also have the square root of 25, which is 5. So you'll get 5I and then a root 10. And that's what you're going to type in. So 5I, just type the I on your keyboard, root 10. Okay. Adding and subtracting complex numbers. These can be done with or without a calculator. I'm going to do this one without a calculator, but I will show you with some of the harder ones the importance of using the calculator. So with adding, all you're going to do is add your real parts and your imaginary parts. So 9 minus 2 is 7. Negative 2I minus 5I is negative 7I. And that's exactly what you're going to type in the box. Again, you can use the calculator if you need to. So 7 minus 7I. We're going to do a subtracting one next. So with the subtracting, again, if you want to use a calculator, if you're worried about messing up like the distributing, you definitely can. Or you can just remember that you need to distribute the minus sign. So you're going to have a 10 minus a minus 5, which is going to be 10 plus 5, which is 16. And then you're going to do 8I minus 4I, which is 4I. So you get 16 plus 4I. So 16 plus 4I. Now, when you're multiplying and dividing, you definitely want to use a calculator. So I'm going to take you through that on the calculator and not write anything down. So I am multiplying, let me move my calculator over a little bit. I am multiplying negative 11 plus 9I, so you want to make sure you use parentheses. You're going to have negative 11 plus 9I, and your I is hitting second and the decimal point. Close that parentheses, and then negative 8 plus 10I. Close that parentheses. You get negative 2 minus 182I. Negative 2 minus 182I. And that is your multiplying, totally calculator based. For division, also calculator based, you just really have to watch your parentheses. So you want to make sure your numerator is in parentheses. So your numerator is negative 24 minus 28I. And then divide with new parentheses for the denominator so you can keep the entire denominator together. So plus 6I. If you get anything that's decimals, you can go to the fraction button, hit math fraction. This one's nice. It's no decimals. You're just going to type in negative 3 minus I. Negative 3 minus I. Submit. Yes. Right. And we are down to the last couple topics on this quiz, which is the quadratic formula and the discriminant. So your discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. First, you have to get in standard form. So let me start that process. So we're going to subtract 7. So you get 3x squared plus 48x plus 192. And expect on the quiz that you are going to have to move things around and get them in standard form. So your A is 3, your B is 48, and your C is 192. So B squared, so 48 squared minus 4 times 3 times 192. And again, calculator is wonderful to have to do this. I don't know if I got to close my screen off to pull up my calculator. I'm going to do it on my calculator next to me, so you won't see this, but I promise I'm typing it into my calculator. So 48 squared minus 4 times 3 times 192 is 0. So I'm going to enter that into that box. Let me go to that. So you're going to enter 0. So you have a couple options here. If your discriminant is positive, you're going to get 2 real solutions, no imaginary. If your discriminant is negative, you're going to get no real and 2 imaginary. If your discriminant is 0, you're going to get one real, sorry, hit the wrong button, and no imaginary. And that is everything I need for that one. You do want to review, depending on your discriminant, how many are your solutions. That will show up on this quiz. And we've got one question left in this review. So this is a quadratic formula that is using the calculator. So I'm going to do a little work on here, and then I'm going to grab my calculator. So my A, B, and C, A is 1, B is -6, C is -41. I'm going to check my discriminant first. I think it's easiest. So b squared, ignore the negative when you square it. So 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times -41. I'm going to grab my calculator that is next to me. 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times -41 gives me a discriminant of 200. So I'm going to go to my calculator now. So let me get rid of this. My discriminant is 200 and jot that down. So on my calculator, I'm going to put my numerator in parentheses, so opposite of b, 6, plus or minus, I'm going to do the plus first, the square root of 200, because that was my discriminant. Close that parentheses, that's your numerator, divided by 2 times a, 2 times 1 is 2. So one of your decimals is 10.1. It does ask for the nearest tenth, so we're in one decimal place. The other one, if you go to second and enter, you can actually change that plus sign to a minus sign to save yourself a little bit of time, and change that to 2 minus the square root of 200, you get -4.1. So my two answers are 10.1 and -4.1. So 10.1, another answer, -4.1. And that is the review for the quiz over 4.6 to 4.8.